Hi, so I wanted to do a part 2 of my withdrawal story, and I'm going to talk about what things that I think I did wrong, and then I had to basically reinstate. So part of the reason I think it didn't work for me at this point was the time that I chose to do it. So it was a time where a lot was happening in my life. I had a big life change, and so it was just the wrong time. So I think my learning and advice from that is to pick a time when you've not really got any kind of major life change or anything like that. Obviously life will never be perfect or stress-free, but I certainly did it wrong at the time, because it was one of the biggest things, one of the biggest life changes you can go through. So that was wrong. I discussed in the first part 1 video that I did it too quickly. So I did a 4-month taper. I'd been on this medication for over a decade, so that was too quick. So that was the second thing I did wrong. And I think another huge thing that played a part for me, and when I try and come off the medication in the future, this is something that I definitely won't do, just to kind of experiment, really, to see the difference. And I'm pretty convinced it was one of the main things. Obviously the taper was too quick, but I think this played a huge part in the reason why I wasn't successful in staying off the medication. So I came off the medication, and at that time I obviously went into withdrawal. So I had kind of lots of symptoms. I became very depressed. It was a depression that I never had before I went on the medication. So I knew it was, it was something different, and it was related to coming off the tablet too quickly. So I went onto Google, and I very quickly found myself kind of immersed in I found like certain kind of forums, and I read lots of horror stories, that were a lot around, cold turkey. If you cold turkey over your medication, you'll never heal. And obviously a 4-month taper isn't a cold turkey, but it's not far off. It was too quick. So that, and from what I read, it created such a panic of what I was reading, and I don't advocate cold turkey, but I was reading lots of kind of things that were really quite extreme, like you'll never heal, and this is going to happen. So I'd come off, I panicked, and then I went back on the tablet, and then I ended up reading more awful things again about what can happen if you reinstate after a certain period. And I was reading all these kind of these words, which I'm not saying they can't happen to people, but I don't think it helped me personally. Reading about one of the words was kind of kindling, that if you reinstate, then this will happen. It was a very kind of certain thing, and I personally don't believe things are that black and white. So I reinstated. I panicked. I went off again. So for me, I'd kind of gone off on a couple of times. So and that was all really because of what I'd read, and I kind of didn't know what to do. I was panicked. I thought, gosh, I'm near a cold turkey. I'm kind of doomed. Oh my gosh, I've reinstated. I'm doomed as well. And I just found myself in the worst kind of fear state I'd ever experienced in my life. And I know a lot of it was withdrawal, but I'm pretty certain a lot of it was also because what I was reading. So a lot of it was panic that led to me going on and off. So I went off and decided to see what happened, and things, you know, didn't get better. So I sort of used kind of what I knew from my working background as well, that actually, you know, we do see a lot of patients and people that do reinstate their medication when they get, you know, to a really bad point, and actually it can help, you know. And I think if somebody's at rock bottom, you know, I don't think personally we can say absolutely no medication. I don't think you can be that absolute. So I decided, no, I need to reinstate, I need to go back on, but I need to make sure that when I go back on that I'm actually mindful that this medication, which is an antidepressant, is not going to work overnight. So I was, you know, I didn't want to kind of misinterpret any anxiety as an adverse reaction or a kindling. I wanted to kind of use my own kind of clinical background, that actually, hang on a minute, it can take, you know, 6, sometimes up to 12 weeks for an antidepressant to take full effect. So there is going to be some initial startup effects, you know, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's an adverse reaction, so not to panic. Obviously I can't say that doesn't happen, and then the individual will know themselves. And then, you know, my advice is, if you're concerned with anything serious, speak to your doctor. But it's just having that kind of holistic approach to it. And so I knew that it'd gone wrong for various reasons. I was in such a panic state from everything I'd read. I knew I had to get back on, I knew I had to stabilise, and I knew from my clinical knowledge that it was going to take weeks, it wasn't going to be overnight. So I went, as I said in my first video, I went back on a different antidepressant, fluoxetine, and it took me, I would say, about 8 to 10 weeks before I would say that I was fully or near enough stable. I'm 12 weeks now, and I would say I'm back to baseline. Certainly by 8 weeks I slowly started to notice, you know, things were settling down. But those, for me, those certainly the first 6 weeks, I had increased anxiety, the depression got worse, you know, and this can happen with antidepressants. They can make you feel worse before they make you feel better. So I was kind of expecting that, and I knew it wasn't going to be a case of, you know, overnight everything's going to be better. So I knew that, and I'm glad for me that I reinstated, because I'm stable again. So guess what I'm trying to say is keep an open mind when doing it, and as I say, when I do try and reduce off the medication in the future, the biggest thing I've learned from this is I will do it, but I won't be kind of embedding myself in all that scare stories out there. I'm going to do it completely different, and obviously much slower. You know, we know that now. There's new guidelines, and, you know, I've read really well written. You know, there's an element of flexibility. You've got to feel what's right for you. But, you know, it clearly says, and I agree, that you know, especially if you've been on medication for a long time, you know, the body that does become used to having that drug. So you do need to taper much slower, and, you know, you can't just do it in weeks if you've been on the medication a long time. So there's lots of learning there, but again, I want to give people a message of hope that, you know, whichever path you choose, it's okay. Hopefully I'm a success story of reinstatement. I'm not saying what's right or wrong for you, but I think it's just knowing that these tablet medications do take time, and, you know, thinking about is what you're experiencing, adverse reaction. Again, that's for you and your doctor to decide. But also, you know, if you're on forums every day, and like I was, and seeing all these you know, awful stories and these kind of words that get passed around, that is going to leave you in a state of anxiety. And I think that's one of the reasons I failed. So lots to learn there. But anyway, that's part 2 of the story. So to me, it did end successfully. In the end, it wasn't my desired outcome. You know, I think I've said from my first video, I'm not anti-medication. I certainly don't think we should say you should or shouldn't be on. That is a medical decision, not something over the internet. But you know, hopefully this is a positive story, and you know, I'll try again in the future. And you know, I still long term want to come off this medication. At the time when it was prescribed, you know, we didn't know much about withdrawals. I don't even think it was a thing when I went on it. So I don't blame the medical profession at all. I don't blame Big Pharma, because I think, you know, to a certain degree, especially, you know, GPs, at the time it wasn't well recognised, and it is now, and that's really good. I'll never on this channel go into like details of symptoms and things like that, because I don't think that's helpful. But you know, they're not easy for many people to get off. If I'd have known that at the time, I don't think I would have gone on them. But you know, you live and you learn, and you can't regret things in the past. But you know, as I say, things aren't black and white, and I think sometimes, you know, if somebody's non-functioning, they can, you know, they would have helped lots of people. So it's just keeping a bit of an open perspective on it all as well. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.